Okay.
The economy today is in a mess. As an example, the U.S. federal government claims that its U.S. government federal debt is $12 trillion. This would be bad enough, but the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, claims that the U.S. federal debt is actually $200 trillion, which is equal to about $600,000 for every man, woman, and child in the U.S. The Canadian government probably isn't very far behind. As another example, the global derivatives market is estimated to be more than $1 quadrillion, which is $1 million for every man, woman, and child in the developed world, all 1 billion of us. Uncontrolled debt, fiscal instability, unemployment, social unrest, dissatisfaction, fraud, they're all rampant and they're all growing exponentially.
Go.
This mess has really lasted from the dawn of society because economics has got some fundamental flaws in the basic theory. We can't build an economy based on poor fundamental flaws because we'll just create more of a problem. We have to fix the fundamentals of economic theory.
Go.
To many politicians and statement, economics growth is the mantra which is going to solve all our problems. It hasn't solved our problems in the past. And the reason is that because they do not differentiate nominal economic growth from actual economic growth or growth in the quality of life. While the quality of life can be hard to define, it should be what our actual goal is. Let's first look at the nominal economic growth rates. Economists like to keep the economy growing as 1% per annum, which is a modest ambition in which generally our economies grow at about 1% a year. If we were to compound that 1% interest rate over the 6,000 years of approximate history of society, we would get that the economy today is 8.5 times 10 to the 25 bigger than it was during Adam. If we take that 8.5 times 10 to the 25 and divide it by the 6 billion people who are alive today, we get an estimate that the average person today consumes 1.4 times 10 to the 16 more than people did in Adam's time. Now, we can also look at the time from Noah. Noah was about 4,000 years ago. If we look at Noah, then the economy since Noah's time, each person consumes now 190 million times more than Noah's sons did. So what these figures are saying is that our economy is consuming astronomically larger amounts of quantities than earlier societies did. Yet, are we really that much happier? Are we astronomically happier than these earlier societies? Many people would argue no, and then many people would suspect that earlier societies were much happier than we are in their own way. Through credit cards and the like, today's economy registers and records new innovative products. Things like first-class air travel, televised basketball games, or MRIs. These things are all new. And in many ways, the growth rates of these things isn't astronomical, it's infinity, because they just didn't exist a few centuries ago. But if we think of it, well, people didn't have first-class air travel back then. They could walk wherever they wanted to go. And while people didn't have televised basketball games, they had other forms of leisure that we just don't know much about. And they didn't really need MRIs as much when they didn't have such high growth rates of cancer and that sort of thing. So while the growth rate of these objects would predict an astronomical increase in our quality of life, the actual growth rate is actually far less. What does this mean? The first thing we should do is look at the nature of money. Money can be seen as a tool to measure rational behavior. In this mindset, the more rational behavior you do, the more money you get. And rationality is determined by the free will of other market actors. Obsessions, delusions, and phobias may exist, but these will be rewarded poorly by the judgment of other actors. This would seem to be a utopian existence, with free markets automatically assessing and rewarding other people's behavior in a pattern of exponential growth. The problem exists with the use of money as a measuring instrument. In other sciences, this is called the uncertainty principle. The uncertainty principle was developed for quantum mechanics, where very minute particles can be affected by the process of measurement. But for our purposes, we can understand the uncertainty principle best by considering the measurement of temperature in a glass of water. Now, if we take a hot thermometer and place it into a glass of cold water to measure the temperature of the water, we will raise the temperature of the water. The temperature of the water is being measured correctly, but the temperature of the water is being affected by the process of measurement.
The same thing can happen with economic records. Our use of money to record rational behavior can change the definition of rational behavior. What we want is an increase in the actual quality of life, not just an increase in a bunch of financial records, because our financial records can mislead us.
Let's take healthcare, for example, as it relates to a drink of water. Now, if a farmer takes a glass of water from a spring on his farm, it may taste great and be a boon to his health, but there's very little economic growth there. If he switches to a bottle of water and drinks bottled water on occasion, the economy grows. If he gets on a municipal water system and gets his water from a municipal water system, the economy grows again. If he doesn't like the taste of municipal water and buys a cola, the economy grows again. The more cola he buys, the more the economy grows. If he gets diabetes from all that sugar in the cola, the economy grows exponentially. If he then switches to Diet Cola and drinks a lot of Diet Cola and gets cancer, again, I'm sad to say, but the economy grows exponentially. Now, this may seem like an absurd example, but it is happening on a massive scale right underneath our noses at the present time. And it is recorded as economic growth in an exponential manner.
Healthcare is one of the few areas in North America where the economy is expected to expand in the coming years. And while healthcare is a very important component of the quality of life, people are much happier if they don't need it in the first place. Yet our governments seem to promote expansion of demand all the time without trying to promote an expansion of the surplus or an expansion of the satisfaction. By increasing the demands all the time, what we're really doing is we're increasing the deficit exponentially, and we're not increasing the quality of life exponentially. Whether it be cars or housing or clothes or whatever, the nominal economy grows when people have demands that can't be met. The problem is that this just creates dissatisfaction, growing dissatisfaction at an exponential rate. Which brings us to another example, the example of debt. The prudent thing would be for people to avoid debt, since debt can lock both borrower and lender into unhappy circumstances, primarily the borrower. The problem is that while liberty may be the path to actual growth, debt is the path to nominal growth, because our debts are painstakingly recorded. One means by which people increase their need of the economy is to increase the division of labor. To divide labor means to specialize in your work, so you're less able to do other forms of work, and so that you're more reliant on money as an instrument of trade. But divided labor is recorded behavior. The division of labor increases the nominal growth rate while decreasing the quality of life in an unreported manner.
War is good for the economy. War and war preparations keep people busy and they increase industrial productivity. But war is the ultimate destroyer of the quality of life. In an ideal world, the efforts that go into war and war preparations will be spent not on destroying the quality of life, but on improving the quality of life.
Education is another example of how economic records can skew our perceptions. Currently, the unemployment statistics do not generally account for those people who are still in school. Yet as we spend more time in school, This increasingly skews our perceptions.
Likewise, moral decay can show up as nominal economic growth. People can have a great time entertaining themselves and contributing culturally without being recorded economically, without contributing to the nominal economic growth rate. Meanwhile, our government is becoming increasingly dependent on things like alcohol and gambling for their funding. Gambling and alcohol and other such vices can contribute to the nominal economic growth rate without contributing to the actual economy. Globalism also presents itself as nominal economic growth because it increases travel distances. Globalism also increases the dependence of other nations upon each other economically, and means which can only be mediated by the use of currency. Trade between nations shows up as nominal economic growth to officials. Trade between neighbors may not show up.
Money also records the status quo in an exaggerated manner. While creation may be the essence of life, commodities are the essence of an economy. Because the economy finds it difficult to account for the unique product, the spark that often gives life meaning. Yet economies are also very dependent on measuring large quantities of identical goods, of commodities.
Given the list of preceding examples, it's little wonder that our society has become filled with financial turmoil, asset bubbles, fraud, unemployment, and dissatisfaction. For while our nominal records have shown an astronomical growth in the quality of life, for many, the quality of life has remained stagnant or has even declined. By using money to blindly measure our rational behavior, we have changed our perceptions of rationality, and we have deluded ourselves. We have led ourselves astray. Yet it continues. Just as alcoholics become dependent on the substance that destroys themselves, so our society has become dependent on nominal economic growth. The promises of astronomical nominal growth have committed many people to following this goal without looking at the actual situations. Meanwhile, just as alcoholics can become the 400-pound gorilla in the family that nobody will talk about, so we have become reluctant to talk about nominal economic growth and the problems.
Many of us are addicted to nominal economic growth because we get paid on a percentage cut of the nominal record, and also because sometimes we're just too dependent on the economy for our livelihood. Also, many well-intentioned people make decisions based solely on the nominal economic record because that's the only information they have available.
Breaking ourselves free of this addiction to nominal economic growth will be difficult. It will take years of effort and diligence. But just as it has taken us thousands of years as a society to become addicted to nominal economic growth, it may take many years to break free. It may even take a 1,000-year reign. But with God's help, we can succeed. As with all bad habits, the first step is to recognize the problem. I hope today that I've helped you to see nominal economic growth as both a social problem and perhaps as a personal problem. Watch for further video presentations and written materials, and you can email me at davidrobertbillings, all one word, @yahoo.ca. Good luck and stay real.